Oh, it's time. Time to get radical.
Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to Radical Comment of the Week for August 2nd through August 8, 2021. These are the very best comments from that time period, starting out with the honorable mentions. We got MBK Silent, Red Stratus 97, and the Winged Avenger. The bronze medal comes to us from Rusty Shackelford. Frustration, anger, disappointment, conflicted. Words cannot describe how to feel about WWE and their recent releases. Bray Wyatt was one of the most compelling characters I've seen in WWE in years. This man had the potential to have a legendary career similar to the likes of The Undertaker. He was literally over with the fans, but WWE decided to bury him. After his loss to John Cena at WrestleMania 30, Wyatt's career went downhill. Didn't think for a moment that Wyatt would ever recover, but he somehow did with the Fiend character. Say what you will, but the Fiend character was one of the best I had seen in years, especially for a repackaged character. At this point, I literally thought Bray Wyatt would finally have his chance to be the star that he was capable of being. But once again, WWE made the same mistake and started to bury him with the bullshit finish at Hell in the Cell with Seth Rollins. Then they fed him to Goldberg and basically obliterated his character once more. It's rather frustrating to see how WWE has treated some of their talent. In a way, it's bittersweet because Wyatt may have a chance to shine wherever he goes, and if he chooses to continue to compete in wrestling, but would people care enough to follow? I can imagine AEW might be interested, and it would definitely be interesting to see if he does go to AEW. At the same time, though, AEW is falling into that trap TNA set themselves up for a little over 10 years ago. Heck, they're even making the same mistakes as WWE with buying up so much talent and pushing out so many shows in 1 week. Dynamite, Dark, Elevation, and now Rampage. At some point, people are going to be fed up and just stop watching altogether, like how some already did with WWE. In the case of CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, I can imagine their roles won't be too much of an impact on AEW. Bryan has shared that his career is coming to a close, and he would like to have a lighter schedule and spend time with his wife and daughter, so I can imagine he won't be on too much to overshadow talent. Plus, Bryan is more of a team player and will probably want to build younger talent. CM Punk is different. Not sure what his angle is, or what he expects from AEW. I can imagine he too would want a light schedule. Not sure if he's the type to want to build talent or if he wants to be on top. Time will tell. The wrestling world would be an interesting one for the next couple of months. Yeah, falling into the trap. I look at it as you have a good thing and you just overplay your hand. There's many traps that these wrestling promotions can fall into. But one thing that you cannot recover from, at least to the viewers, is if you have a lack of talent, if you have a lack of stars. The ratings for WWE are not good, and that is because they fell into this trap of continuing to just push the same people. The same people. Cena all the time, every day. And it worked for a while, you know? It kept things a-going. And then they tried to replicate that with Roman. But it didn't work because Roman Reigns didn't have that personality that Cena has. As much as people will criticize Cena, and he got way too much of the spotlight, I think he had a charisma. And you can't just replicate a charisma. Maybe they're trying to figure this out. You can have the best workers in the world, right? But if they have no charisma, you don't have the ability to put asses in the seats to watch your product. But that's a different topic. You know, it's the main problem going on in WWE, I think, right now, is the lack of huge stars. So it makes absolutely zero sense, regardless of what they're paying the guy. They got plenty of money. It makes zero sense to let him go if you're all about big stars. Unless they thought they'd already ruined the character. They set the guy on fire. Where are they going to go from there? You know? It's not like the person Bray Wyatt, or, I don't know his real name, but it's not like he is so talented that he can't actually recreate his character. He did it. He did it. He recreated himself to The Fiend. People thought, after he was buried by Cena, lost to Cena, then he was done. But he came back, like you said. He came back as The Fiend. And then they fucked it up. Of all people, they fed him to Goldberg. They fed him to Oldberg. Does that make any sense long term? Who the fuck is running things in WWE? Right? Or are they going to have Goldberg come out in 20 years on crutches? You have to build new stars. And Bray Wyatt, he was a star. He was a talented guy. I don't know if he had the potential to be the next Undertaker, because we're in a different time right now. Wrestling is not as big as it was, but you take Bray Wyatt, you take The Fiend, you take Bray Wyatt, that talent, that charisma, you put it back like in the 90s. You telling me that you can't take that person and pair them up and have some legendary matches with, Shawn Michaels type and build a legend? That's why they're in that trap of not being able to build any new stars. And CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, like you said, time will tell to see what happens there. But it would be a huge pickup for AEW if that actually does go through. I think CM Punk, he would be more interested in the wrestling and being on top than Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan, I agree, probably be more of a team player. Thank you, Rusty Shackelford. Moving on to the shiny, shiny silver medal, we got Tedruzas. I've watched someone, over the course of his lifetime, feed his video game addiction into all manner of other addictions. Video games pretty much have been the cornerstone of his life. He's a few years younger than me, and I'm almost 39. We grew up pretty close, but we did have some differences. As kids, I wanted to be outside playing first. If the weather was bad, or it just got too hot, too cold, whatever, then go inside and play video games. He couldn't be outside for more than 5 minutes at a clip without going back inside. To the credit of video games, he did learn how to read from reading video game instruction booklets, but video games have kept him from everything in life. He washed out of college, he went back a few years later and finished up doing online classes, but has never put his degree to use. Flat out told me once that getting a job would mean he wouldn't have enough time in the day to play video games and hang out with his friends, who by then all had jobs. He's now in his mid-30s, and has all of 6 months' work experience. But he somehow manages to obtain the latest consoles and titles. He's had every Nintendo console since the N64, and every PlayStation except the PS5. His family couldn't afford more games for him, so he slowed down and found other things to get addicted to. A series of books, although it's not the worst thing, but you can't have a conversation with him without a book from the series being brought up. Food, sugar, and some other things. In the past few years, he's gained close to 60 pounds, has all kinds of other physical health issues from being completely sedentary, but insists he can just go to the doctor and get a pill to help. He knows more lore from the Warhammer 40k series and Final Fantasy series of games than I knew was even fathomable. He might actually do well as a content creator. Problem is that requires effort. He's the archetypical consumer of content. I'd love to see him try to produce content, but he just insists he wants to watch videos. All day long. That sounds pretty sad. There's no other way to slice it. That sounds pretty sad. Feeding your video game addiction. I forget which upload you brought this up on, but deviating from this. That upload from Dreamcast Guy a couple years ago, where he tried to debunk the study that video game addiction was actually a thing. They did a study, video game addiction is a thing. Like many things can be addicted. Have you brought this up to this person? I mean, I'm sure you had conversations with him about his addiction. A lot of times when people are in their addictions, that's their only focus. And I can't see any way outside of maybe introducing him to a different kind of life or the other pleasures of life, sometimes to actually get someone off of an addiction. Like I'm trying to figure out how to maybe help your friend. Sometimes to get them off of one addiction, you actually have to introduce them to something else that they might have a lot of interest in. That it's kind of like when you have a smoker and then you get them a nicotine patch and maybe you introduce them to other things that, because it's about the personality. Certain people have the addictive personality, so you have to play into that to actually take it to another different type of addiction. Now, imagine if you got addicted to something like working out. That would be an incredibly healthy addiction. But let's say it was tied to a video game. I don't know if there's any good workout video games. You know, you actually basically have to work within the parameters of easing him off, like weaning him off of his addiction, if that's even possible. You can maybe paint a picture for him that is grim of what happens to people if they do not have any work experience. You say he has 6 months of work experience in 30 some years? I don't know. Like, I wish I had all the answers, but this comment highlights a textbook example of a video game addiction. So anyone out there that laughs at the idea of a video game addiction, pay attention to this comment from Tadruzos about his friend. Thank you, Tadruzos. Now the shiny, shiny gold medal comes to us from Art Bell. You know, it's been a while, been a drought since you had a shiny, shiny gold. And this one, you earned it. Now this one's going to be hard to read because it's a very small font. And I'm reading it on a giant TV also. But to clip this, and probably you all are going to have a difficulty reading it also, but I mean, hey, I wasn't going to clip 2 pages of comments. No, way too much editing work, you know? It is what it is. Art Bell, the claim by some, mere coincidence that a woman's beauty peaks right when she is of childbearing age, perhaps 27, 28, when folks notice their looks diminish. No accident. The energy to stay firm and attractive, skin youthful and glowing, diverts to survival and basic health and fitness when eggs are mostly unviable. Away from looks to attract a mate to mate. Eggs die with beauty. 95% of eggs are unviable by 30. My 2 cents when pinups sunset. Tawny Kate's death, May 7. Human genetics favor looks for a short time, for seduction and mating, to keep the human race going. A pity that the attractiveness energy of a human animal life is taken and diverted towards help in other areas such as health, longevity, fitness. To stay a model for life is too big of an ask. Now, in death, her name is back to merely Tawny Kinley. She and her brother changed their name. Fake as fuck for both to claim Kate. At least there are 2 daughters. For guys to lust over as if they can date models? Will they be in rock videos? May 7, she dies. Her brother said from a broken heart. 30 drugs to self-medicate? No info yet. Carrie Fisher's Carrie Fisher's brother has crazed, absurd denials of drug use. A critic said Carrie should never have been in Force Awakens. She was too old, and her voice was too unpleasant and denture sounding at that point. Tawny's story. She wanted to be popular, to be loved, to make up for her childhood. Tawny always tried to give off an air of confidence. The multiple plastic surgeries and substance abuse told the real story. Her personal problems being made public in the gossip pages only embarrassed her and further added to her insecurities. Even the name Tawny Kate has a story behind it. It wasn't a stage name. It was a name she made up as a teenager to try and reinvent herself. Imagine being 15 or 16 years old, starting at a new school, and going around telling everyone your name is Steel Rockhard, or Biggie Donovich. Large boobs up top. Majorette chest stage. It never stops. That's what Tawny did. What she did was try to reinvent herself as someone better than she thought she was. Made up a name she thought was sexy and attractive to try to impress. She wanted to be special, but always doubted that she was. Whenever I saw her later in life, I saw someone with a lot of pain. I feel bad that she started as a truly beautiful young woman who kept trying to be what she thought people wanted, vulnerable to the Hollywood machine. As in many other cases, the machine chewed her up and spit her out. I'll still try to remember Tawny as a fresh-faced beauty from the early 80s. The factor of eye seduction in life. It's big. Trick of the person you marry or mate with is that they will stay young or barely age. This trick is shattered when you meet the obviously older parents. Like the hot person doesn't pee. You meet their parents. They do it all. By older looks, they look mortal, not from the stars. The male mind, rendered puny from lust, shiny objects, it is obsessed with right now she is A+, okay, hit the buy button, marry and mate, as if attractiveness is protection from divorce. Cheating in 2021. More luck getting an Amico controller to work. Oof. Yeah. The factor of eye seduction. The lie your eyes tell you. You can't predict the future, but you can definitely predict that years will happen. Age will happen. Eventually, we will all be just bags of bones, unless we die earlier than our designated time. When it comes to the factor of eye seduction, it's like, and I didn't write this script. I'm just kind of going with it. I didn't respond to these comments before, I guess I could. I just don't have the time for it. Because, to be honest, I have a pursuit currently of females, I mean, it's not really an addiction because I don't put my whole entire life around it. But I'm a victim to it. Eye seduction. I hate to deviate from your comment here. I might come back, I might not. But I'm actually having a moment here where I'm thinking about things. And I wish I could actually be attracted to unattractive people. I wish I could. But I can't. I am not wired in a way to be attracted to unattractive women. And that's cost me a lot of money, a lot of time, trying to make sure that I'm of an equal attractive level. Because attractive lures attractive. Attractive lures attractive. It's hard to get a very attractive person or persons for the art of seduction if you are not, you can be charming and that will get you a reasonably far distance. You could be a man of a lot of monetary wealth. A lot of women are attracted to that. But, ultimately it takes attractive to lure attractive. At least that's my experience and everything. I wish it were a case to where things were different and I could make the choices and push against my genetic inclinations to go out into the world. It's hard to fight your genetics. We're not talking about a video game addiction. We're talking about the need to, propagate? The need to fertilize eggs and make things happen and replicate yourself. It's the core of what it means to be a human. It's why every single one of us is here. It's part of your genetic inclination, I wish I could fight against that. I wish I could be peaceful and serene by myself for the rest of time. There's a lot of channels out there, a lot of these channels out there to tell you, you don't need females to be happy. All you need is yourself. Try having that conversation with your penis, Yeah, your penis don't like that. Your penis is like, what the fuck's going on, man? You really? So, yeah. Speaking of addiction, it's like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Like, people are addicted to eating food. I don't know where I'm going with this. Yeah, this thing kind of went off the rails. Yeah, no. I sincerely want people to know that I have cut back on my uploading, especially the quality of my uploads. There was a comment, I forget where it was. It might have been one of the ones that didn't make it into the medal ceremony, where there was a discussion of how I wish it would have made it in. I wish it would have made it in, but it didn't. It wasn't one of the best 3 comments of the week. Talking about how the more you do something or the more that it happens, the less of the quality. Yeah, that's the case. If I just uploaded one of these every couple days, the quality would be through the roof, because I'd have time to actually go through, make edits, make notes and everything. But right here, I don't have time to. And a lot of you are suffering from the fact that I have a life. This is not what it could be. So, I mean, I'm not going to apologize because I'm not a full-time YouTuber. I'm not. So trying to balance this, trying to balance, working out and my trim pursuits, which are ultimately pointless, Art Bell, aren't they? Because at some point, I mean, it's just, I'm not going to be able to bring in the prime trim, the pinup models. I'm not going to be able to bring those in at some point. But I guess I would counter that with, well, why not go ahead and go all out while you still can? There will be a time. Art, there will be a time. I mean, I'm only human. There will be a time when I'm very old, I'm very wrinkly, my belly hangs over, and I can't even recognize or talk to my friend anymore. There will be that time. And in that time, maybe I'll have more time to actually come back to YouTube, and I won't have much of a life. I won't have these trim pursuits, And then maybe I'll care more about YouTube. But right now, I don't care enough to actually make sure this comment of the week is one of the best. I don't care enough because, well, trim. Should I end it there? I suppose I could. I'm not going to end it there. I'm not. Human genetics you talk about, they favor looks for a short time. Yeah, it's a trick of it, isn't it? A trick of it. Seems to be like women, and it's unfair to women that their looks peak at a certain time. But there's a link to when their looks peak as to when they are viable. And then you fertilize them, and then everything keeps going. And then I think women get the short end of the stick as far as looks, because a guy, there's still a lot of women out there that, want to bang the guy from Taken. That dude's old. But he makes them moist, right? So that's kind of weird. And you can't really see that same situation with a lot of, younger guys, wanting to bang women in their 60s. I know there's examples to where it's different, yeah, but you don't see that. So it's unfair to women. I'll put that out there. It's unfair to women that men's shelf life is about twice as long as females. It is unfair. But you have the females that sometimes they still look really good into their old age. Maybe the women that avoid the sun. Avoiding the sun is key. So I will say you can go outside, but, be careful and put on your sunscreen, right? Because, once the sun starts burning into your skin, are the women that get suntans a lot. That's a tip for any of the females listening. That's not going to be kind to you when you get older. Not going to be kind to you. Yeah, it's a big ass. Staying a model for life, you can't stay a model for life. You can't make people happy for an entire life with your looks, So, there's so much here I'd love to discuss. I've already went long, and a lot of you are probably already angry that this is, went long, but I don't know. For some of you that enjoy listening to me talk and enjoy these amazing comments, this has been a treat. To you all, thank you so much for listening. Have a great day. Take care. Much love.